What's crack-a-lackin' YouTube? I was sitting around, jamming some tunes, thinking I better check in with my lovely subscribers. You're lovely. Thanks for subscribing. How about we get back into the old CD collection? We're going A to Z, touching every single one of them, and I'm telling you little anecdotes about every single one of my lovely CDs. While I flap my gums, I thought I'd bust out this old classic. This is one of a very near and dear album to my stupid heart. This is Oxyplug ATS with Sidereal Journey. You won't find this on LP. Pretty unpopular, really outsider, kind of weird space metal project. And man, that's my jam. This came out in '97 on Seasons of Mist. This is a solo project of Alf Svensson of The Grotesque and At the Gates, first couple of albums. So space metal at its finest. He did 3 records, and it's the last we've heard of him. It would be really cool if he did another one, and I feel like the likelihood of that actually being good is pretty high. So I hold a little candle out for Oxyplug ATS putting out a new album at some point, but it's been a long while. So back into the D's we're getting into the Demons section. Actually, these are kind of out of order. We're in the midst of the Demons. How about that? We should really spend a lot of time in the midst of the Demons. So I covered this briefly when I got it in a couple of months ago or so now, but real pleased as punch to have this. As far as I can tell, it is a legit copy. I paid about $25 for it not too long ago. Guy on Discogs was selling it. So this isn't, like, I guess the most common or most sought after version. It's like some Spanish variant. By the way, it's Demigod's The Slumber of Sullen Eyes. Love this album up and down. Just really never got around to picking it up until recently because it's really rare and expensive. So just down-tuned, finished death metal the way it so beautifully is done. And I've just been eating this kind of stuff up so much. Thinking it's time to go back around and listen to this one again. It's kind of been a while. I kind of feel like I've run the gamut for a while on these death metal discography 2 CD kind of collections. Got a couple of cool things I'm hoping come in on eBay here soon that you should see in a update in the future. But yeah, man, death metal stuff is still really my jam. I'm kind of going back and forth, a little bit back and forth. But yeah, Demigod's The Slumber of Sullen Eyes is just fucking absolute perfection. The overall tone on this is just so, it just scratches an itch that's just so deep and primal within my skull. It just feels so great, like death metal always should. So next we're looking at Demons and Wizards. I think I've talked about them a little bit in a video at some point, but I really shouldn't stop singing the praises of this band. 2 members comprise at least this incarnation of the band. Hansi Kirsch of Blind Guardian and John something or other from Iced Earth. I've tried John Schaefer of Iced Earth. I've tried my damnedest to find an Iced Earth album or song or period that I can stomach, but I just have no interest in it. I don't know what it is. It's just, it seems like it has all the trappings of a good power metal record, but the songs just aren't there. There's nothing for me to come back for. I don't really know what it is. Blind Guardian, however, are absolutely fantastic band. I don't go as crazy about them as I think a lot of people do. I've got probably 7 or 8 of their records, and I listen to them pretty regularly. Seen them live, they were fucking fantastic, and I think Hansi Kirsch is one of the greatest metal singers of our time. But I really am surprised that this collaboration worked out so well as it did, and that it's just been one of my favorite things in the power metal genre ever since this first came out. So this is the debut, 1999, SPV, Steamhammer or something put this out. Really easy to find this album, but these songs just are so epic and memorable and catchy, and like if there's a preferred format to hear these tales of forlorn demons and things like that, this genre really makes it a pretty palatable kind of listen. And these guys are the kings of power metal at this current day and age. A genre that I feel is kind of overwatered with too much talent and not enough really ingenuity or originality or artistic fervor for that matter. But a couple guys are doing it pretty well, and I really, really love Demons and Wizards, as well as their second album, Touched by the Crimson King. Where did he touch you, Johnny? This has the drummer from Blotted Science? Blotted Science? No, that's not it. Sorry, Spastic Inc. Ron Jarzambek. Bobby Jarzambek plays drums on this. And I really, really like the addition of him to the drums. On the first album, the drums are just kind of there, doing what they should. And here, I feel like Bobby Jarzambek's drumming is up there, energy level and talent-wise, with Hansi Kirsch and John Schaefer's guitar playing abilities. So it becomes kind of a trio or a three-piece of almost a supergroup at this point of power metal players who can still actually write tremendous, memorable, and great songs. So if power metal is something you find you wish you could find more that you liked of, I can't recommend Demons and Wizards enough. Really, there's just a handful of power metal bands that I feel like you need, and this is definitely one of them. Demons and Wizards is real, real good. Next, we're looking at High on Blood by Deranged. These guys are fucking brutal, violent, Swedish kind of death metal, bordering upon grindcore. Just absolutely relentless furiosity. I don't really listen to this very often because it's kind of hard to stomach after a while. It's so fucking violent and vicious and unrelenting, fucking steamroller violence and blood. It's just something that appealed to me when I was younger, and I couldn't get enough fucking violence and devastation out of grindcore and shit like that. I had a little brief period of it, and it really hits its mark for its very intended audience. But yeah, these days it's not something that really appeals to me that much anymore because it's just absolutely unwavering in its brutality. And about halfway through the album, you got to either stop it and take a breather and go back in, or put something else on. It's just a little bit too much for me. Maybe I'm getting a little bit too old for this kind of stuff. Definitely never going to leave my collection because at some point I'm sure I'll grab it and it'll just bowl me over. But when I think about this band, I just think about how suffocatingly just vicious this record is, High on Blood. They had a couple other albums that I was a pretty big fan of. I think Rated X came out after this. This is maybe 99 or so, somewhere around there. But yeah, good band, Deranged. So next here we have a split between Jericho and Nargothrond. Now, so this is on More Hate Productions out of Russia. Probably came out in 98 or so. And this label had some success, I guess, at proliferating their releases into the Americas pretty well and getting their shit in all the distros at that time. Because we didn't have the internet to look this stuff up and listen to it and find out that it was painfully average and forgettable. And this really just kind of marks that period of time in the 90s where not everything was all that great. I'll be honest, I haven't listened to this in probably 15 years. It might be worth it. And I feel like the value of releases like this from this time period continues to grow and grow the more we get further away and removed from this kind of stuff. I find myself getting pretty frustrated and sickened by modern, lackluster one-hit wonder, kind of quick burn bands, and reaching back into the past for stuff. But I'm reaching quite back further than this was released. So maybe 5-10 years down the road, I'll put this on, and it'll have some charm. But I think mostly for this time period, the charm that bands like this and releases like this offer is that it's just shit. And it's just kind of funny to look back on this kind of stuff and think, I was really amped about picking this up at some store, or maybe a distro. I hope I didn't pay more than $5 for this at the time, and bringing it home and just going, oh, that wasn't worth it. But anyways, a really good band that I've talked about recently because I picked up both of these releases maybe within the last 6 months or so. But this is Der Vega and her Freiheit with Unstille, their, I think, first album. Pretty sure this is their first album. They may have done an EP and a demo or something before this, but this is Unstille, and this is their most recent release. They have 3, so I'm missing the middle one, second one. And this one is called Finisterre, and this one came out on Seasons of Mist. This first one is a little bit harder to track down. It came out on Viva Hate Records, but these guys are probably one of the fastest black metal bands I've ever heard, but it isn't really something that they use to just be vicious and raw and stupid and hyper blasting. It's got a lot of nice atmosphere to it and a lot of melody to it. It isn't like a gimmicky kind of speediness to them. It's almost just incidental. And at first, I really thought this was kind of gimmicky, and I wasn't really all that into it. But the more I listened to it, the more I just really craved those guitar harmonics that they do. They have a pretty signature sound, I gotta say. The vocals are kind of generic, but it's kind of in a perfect way that lets the guitar work and the songwriting take the forefront. So this band has kind of charmed their way into my heart. This Unstille is one that I listened to quite a bit, and this new one, Finisterre, is pretty great, maybe just a little less great than the first one. The second one, though, they kind of tried to change speeds and get a lot more like post-black metal, and I feel like they just fucking completely shit the bed on that one, so I don't really care about having that one. But this one is pretty great, a total return to form. I can't really think of any bands to compare this off the top of my head to, but they're a really interesting act. I recommend checking them out. Next is something you're not going to know about until now. Daesil, Cold New World. It came out in 1997. This is a really good friend of mine. You've seen him on my channel, Lord Sardonyx. This is his solo project. And style-wise, I really thought this was really cool at the time. First of all, he spent a lot of time and effort putting into this and recording this album entirely by himself on a 2-track DAT tape. Mixed it all down himself, and it sounds really great. It's kind of like a lot of stuff that was coming out around that time, kind of having this like futuristic space, sort of post-apocalyptic sort of thing that was really borrowing a lot from the current news headlines and shit about Y2K and all that kind of stuff. But it's a really good song or album, and his songwriting abilities are just always inescapable. He manages to put together songs that are always pretty watertight, and I love getting to be friends with him and see him take that songwriting ability throughout many, many, many different genres and always be able to pull together a really well-crafted song. I played with him in Satan's Almighty Penis for 10, 15 years or so, and helped him out with various projects. But this is just a little bit before he and I became really good friends. I went over there and he played me this stuff, and I was just completely enthralled with it. We wound up doing a couple of songs where I think I sang on them, and they turned out really good, but I don't remember whatever happened to them. And they never came out on a release, but I was pretty happy to be working with him so soon after hearing what he'd been working on his own for a long time. Next, we've got Disaster, Hellfire's Dominion. I don't know, maybe their debut full-length. And I've also got Stormbringer. This came out in 97. I put this in my 97 video. But killer fucking band. Talk about a band that just never stops being really, really good. They're really great, and their last record that came out in 2015 or so, I kind of would like to pick it up. But their first era with their first singer, can't think of his name, maybe I can find it real quick here. But really super great and talented vocalist. And he's sorely missed from Metal. I'm not sure if he left Metal altogether or if he just left Disaster. I seem to remember at the time it was kind of an amicable split. What is your name? Whatever. Look it up. You're on the internet right now. The singer of Disaster. He's really good. Occulto. That's it. Talk about a great vocalist, man. There's Hellfire's Dominion. So, style-wise, they're not really bringing all that much new to the table. Kind of like Or Noir kind of stuff, Black Thrash. But they really do a good job of just kind of sticking to their guns and writing good albums year after year after year. They've been together since probably 94 or so. So they were doing this kind of retro thing before it was actually a retro thing, and kind of holding the flame of the 80s strong in through the 90s. So Disaster is pretty killer. Really wish they had that old singer back. The new guy's, he's all right. He's not terrible, but the first guy was just that much better, I guess, than most other vocalists. So it's kind of unfair, I guess, to compare him to the new guy. Cheers! I also got this in recently, but I didn't talk about it for very long. Desecracy, I don't know. Jury's out on the pronunciation of that. But this is Stoic Death. The second, maybe third full length from this project. Finnish death metal. This guy is also in Cosmic Church, if you're a fan of that. I know a lot of you guys are, but didn't really do anything for me. He's in a slew of other projects, too, that I don't know, couldn't really be bothered to track down and buy, really. But Extreme Music put this out, and I really, really found this album and the one before it to be pretty damn good. If you think maybe Bolt Thrower is kind of a good leaping off point. It's got that real guttural sort of churning mid-paced, kind of watertight songwriting kind of style to it. Got a little bit of originality to it, but I just wound up picking this up for a couple of bucks not too long ago, and I really, really enjoy it. Stoic Death by Desecracy. I don't know. If you know how to pronounce it, let me know. I don't really know if it's a real English word or what, but usually when we have trouble pronouncing stuff, it's like in Finnish or Swedish or whatever. Next, yeah, this is a real hum fucking dinger. Desecrator with Metal for Demons. So, being the 19-year-old demon that I was when this came out, in probably 98 or so, I don't know, the Black Thrash thing at that point, at least in Midwestern Iowa, hadn't gotten stale, and we were kind of buying up all this shit left and right. Nocturnal Breed, Or Noir, that kind of stuff. We couldn't get enough of it. It was funny. It was really tongue-in-cheek. So then this came out, and it said members of Gorgoroth and Old Funeral, and of course I couldn't buy it fast enough. I'm trying to figure out, is this like the actual historic Viking longship that they're actually like sitting in with their guitars? Maybe that's photoshopped or something, but yeah, it's kind of funny, but maybe I kind of feel like and felt like at the time that the humor that went into this was more of a European style humor, and it kind of missed the mark for me. But I don't know. I'm pretty comfortable saying that this totally sucks. I haven't listened to it in a really, really, really long time. I think they were just kind of using their notoriety with their other projects to get this thing put on Hammerheart Records and subsequently licensed in the States with Pavement Music. But yeah, I don't think anybody ever wrote a good review for this. It was just a kind of a drunken weekend kind of thing where they put together a record. They also released 3 picture disc 7-inches that came out after this, and I never heard what that shit was. But yeah, kind of a sore kind of joke for the Norwegian black metal scene. Metal for Demons. I don't know. But, you know, back in the day when this shit cost $10 a piece, who really gives a shit? Who's counting? Next is De Silence et d'Ombre. Sure, I pronounced that perfectly. This is a very, very strange, I think, Chinese project that came out on Le Crépuscule du Soir. French is my specialty. Very, very peculiar project. Like I said, I think they're from China. Kind of electronic. I guess if you took like Dotheimsgard and Harrot and something else in a blender and got some really dumb kind of half-brained baby, it might be kind of like this. I'm sure I'm selling that real hard to you anyways. I listened to this a couple of years ago, and I guess I was kind of trying to decide if I wanted to hang on to it or not. I think I see this in distros quite a bit, so I think it's a heavily rejected weirdo kind of album. But when I grab an album and I'm trying to decide if I want to hang on to it or not, more often than not, if it's really weird and I find myself just like kind of instantly hating it, I tend to hang on to it, because if I have a strong reaction towards it negatively at some point, I feel like sometime down the road I'm most likely to want that kind of thing at some point and reach for it and like it. It's the mediocre stuff, the forgettable stuff, and the boring stuff that just garner no reaction out of me that I usually wind up just getting rid of and never even remembering that I ever had a copy of it in the first place. So that's the real charm that this album brings to the table. Next and last, but certainly not least, I don't know, you guys might get real mad at me here, but I got 2 releases from Destroyer 666. I got these on eBay for some reason. They were like freebies in something. These are Modern Invasion promos that came free with some other album that I had bought. Violence is the Prince of This World and Unchain the Wolves. I definitely am due for trying these albums out again, but every time I listen to this band, I just fall asleep and I don't care about them at all. Everybody was losing their shit about these guys' album from 2015 or whatever, and I just thought it was really typical, boring, safe sounding, thrashy kind of black metal kind of stuff that didn't do really anything for me. I've heard a lot of friends kind of, say these albums are the ones or the sweet spot for that band, but back when I got these, and probably 98, 99 or so, they didn't do anything for me, and throughout the years they've never done anything for me. But every couple of years I put them on and just kind of see if maybe they stick. But I hang on to them because they were free, and it's kind of cool to have these like slimline promo copies of these albums that way I don't have to bother buying them and then maybe not liking them or whatever. Anyways, that's it for this stack. Thanks for joining me. Let me know what you've been listening to this week, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Oh, wait, by the way, it's been a while since I plugged it, but if you care to join me on Instagram, I do post a bunch of shit on there too. I'll put the username down below there, carrier_of wounds. And yeah, sign me up there, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.